How's your
Thank
day
you for
going?
joining me. This is like the first live that I'm doing for like the whole series of things. So you're like the first guest.
I'm honored.
So we're ready to talk about some cool stuff, baseball. I'm very interested in what you guys are doing with Pando baseball, so that's really interesting. But let's talk about Derek Eitel.
Yeah, thank you. So I played 9 years of professional baseball. I got drafted out of a small Division III engineering school. Only player ever drafted out of that school, which is was kind of cool. Um, Ended up having a good career. Never made it through to the big leagues, but was able to have a lot of great experiences within baseball. Was able to play in the Dominican Republic, which is where I met you.
Yeah.
Played in Venezuela and Mexico, and baseball was just a great tool for me to like get out in the world, see different things, meet different people from different cultures, and really open my eyes up to just how vast the talent pool is of baseball as well. Um, so it was good. I retired a couple of years ago. I'd had my first kid. I was 30, and just kind of over it at that point. Um, but I live in Arizona now, and very happy with where I'm at.
So I know that you said that you got the opportunity to play Winterball. So how was that for you? I mean,
It was awesome. My first year in Winterball was 2013, and it was in Mexico. I was with Obregon, and I actually pitched really well down there my first time in Winterball, which that always helps the experience. But just the food, the people, baseball is very different in Latin America in good ways. The fans are so much more engaged with just each game and also the team, and it's the big leagues. In the minor leagues, you're trying to win a championship and everything, but you're trying to get to the big leagues. And when you're in winter ball, you're in the big leagues down there, and
yeah.
there's an urgency to win. It's results oriented. Like they're not trying to develop talent; they're trying to win games. And that was just really cool to be a part of, and I think helped my competitive spirit coming back to the States, and just really helped me develop both as a player and a person.
Okay, so that's really interesting that you mentioned that, especially for you that before coming here, you only had the chance to play like minor leagues, which is, usually many like minor leagues are like in the middle of nowhere. You don't play in front of a large crowd, and it's no way near as competitive as it would be here on per se. It's Dominican Republic. So
Mm-hmm.
when you got the chance to like go like from like playing in front of anybody or not such a like loud crowd, and then you boom, you find yourself here in the Dominican Republic where we live, breathe baseball, and it's must win. How was that for you?
It was incredible. I played in Double A in Mobile, Alabama. We'd have technical difficulties. We would have not very good crowds a lot of times. We'd have uh, maybe a couple thousand fans. At times bigger than that, but it was very eye-opening when I got to. I remember my first game in Winterball was in Mexicali, and it was like opening night, 25,000 fans. When they introduced the teams, all the lights went out and spotlights. It felt more like a WWE wrestling event or something. Uh,
Wow.
and then in the Dominican, it was I was there in the playoffs with Escogido, and so playoff games in the capital were just incredible. There's energy, an energy that's unmatched in the minor leagues at any level. I won a couple of championships in the minor leagues and played in championship series, and it's awesome. It's a ton of fun, but it's not the big leagues. Like again, like what it is there. And so coming back,
Mhm.
that's an adjustment I think in the minor leagues in general is, it's in a lot of cases smaller crowds, uh, sometimes disinterested fans. You know, they're there to have a night out and have a few beers and watch some baseball. They're not all heavily emotionally invested in the outcome of the game, which is the case in the Dominican. Like, if you pitch well, if you win games, you know, there's an energy when you leave the stadium. The fans are still around. They want to say hi and interact. And
Yes.
that's a special thing. That, like, again, like that was my big leagues.
For a reason or not, it changes for you because you know you're in the minor leagues. You are like fighting for go into the next level, and everybody wants to do like you always want to do good in whatever you are doing. But when you come to the Dominican Republic, it's not necessarily about you improving your skills or you like working on a specific pitch
Mm-hmm.
or it's winning today, winning tomorrow, and if you don't work out like here, Winterball is so fast. Like if you have like 2 ball irons, you might be back home.
Mm-hmm.
And the players don't bat, they don't hit, the pitchers don't get the job done. It's like you out of here, which is like so different from maybe minors because you
Mm-hmm.
can, everybody knows that you're like a minor leaguer. You are, getting better with time and things are getting better and you're working through things. Whereas here, the fans, they can be really warm, really loving,
Mm-hmm.
but they can also be not so nice at times.
I mean, it's cutthroat. It's trying to win, and I've played with guys in Winterball where they get down there, it's their first time in Winterball, and they're down there to work on their changeup and develop a third pitch, and they're home 2 weeks later. Like, they ain't got time for that,
Yeah, exactly.
I felt like I was prepared for Winterball. It's not unique to my situation, but being a middle round pick that didn't sign for a lot of money, I felt like my back was against the wall my entire career. I knew that I didn't have the luxury of working on stuff in the middle of the season. I had to get my work in the off season, make adjustments throughout the season, but I knew that I had to get results if I wanted to stick around and move through the system. And so I think that was one way that I was a little bit more prepared maybe than some players that are prospects in the States and have a little bit more leeway. But yeah, I mean, it's a whole different ball game down there. And the coaches are cool, the front office are cool, that you all interact with each other. But it's it's clear you're there to win games and get the job done. And if you don't, they'll find someone who will.
So, I have to say, like, the whole theme of this thing is that we're having, like, happy hour. I'm not really so much into alcohol, so I'm having, like, my coffee, and I see you're sipping something there, too.
Yeah, I got my Starbucks. Cheers.
Yeah, perfect. So, cheers to that. And since we're here, let's talk about the connections that you were able to make while you were playing. Many of the guys, like, they don't make it to the MLB. Many of them become, like, agents, coaches, trainers. But in your case, you decided to work to be able to manage like the financial side of things for baseball players, which I think is really important because many of the baseball players, the ones that sign with a lot of money and the ones that don't sign with a lot of money, they sometimes don't know how to manage their money, and sometimes their career ends up being a little shorter than they thought. So many of them don't even make it to AAA or the majors. So I find it really interesting what you guys are doing at Pando Baseball. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's cool what we do because it doesn't matter if you're coming from Latin America, if you signed for $5 million or you signed for $20,000, that's done. Like, you get that money and now you go into the same minor league system. And you got to climb the ranks, and you're getting paid peanuts just like everyone else. It doesn't matter what you sign for. Everyone in the minor leagues doesn't make much money. It's just an unfortunate fact of baseball. And our company allows players to leverage their upsides together and work as a team, a small group of players that work together that say, look, the odds of all of us going on to have long big league careers is not the best. But we have a lot of talent in this group, and we can share that risk and say that, when I eat, you're going to eat. When you eat, I'm going to eat. And increase everyone's chances of being able to leave the game of baseball with some financial security and, the ability to provide for your family.
So who came up with the idea for Pando? Like who, like, did you get together with a couple of guys and you say, hey, this is wrong? We all know there's like, especially for everything that just happened recently, if people were not aware, they now are, about how the minor league system works and how much they make as players, you know, how much or how little they make. Because many people think, especially here, I would say in Latin American countries, they think that necessarily if you're a baseball player, you have money, or if you play baseball, you somehow get paid, you know, a certain amount of money, which is not true always. And as we previously said, not everybody gets to sign for like a big amount of money. And even if you sign for a big amount of money, when you go to play, you don't get paid that monthly. You get the same everybody. So who decided to, okay, let's do this. Let's try to like make, because I see us like a group of guys trying to like have each other's back, right?
Right.
When it comes to the financial thing, it's like, yeah, we need to like take care of each other. So who came up with that idea?
I wish I could take credit for coming up with this. And the amount of time I spent, you know, BSing with guys in the bullpen, I can't believe we never thought of this. But Pando was founded by two Stanford MBA grads, Charlie Olson and Eric Lax, and it came about by studying with a world-renowned economist. And originally, Pando wasn't designed for athletes. It was just looking at the economy and seeing that many young people are being funneled, if they want to overachieve financially, and you know, not just have the regular 9 to 5 where you're going to get your paycheck and get by, but if you want to excel in your field, you have to enter into a very volatile field. That there's going to be a small amount of winners and a lot of people who don't reach that level, and it's going to be consolidated wealth at the top, but you don't know who's going to be who, and which is very similar to the baseball model. Anyone in the minor league has a lot of talent. You don't get there without that, and
Exactly.
and so Pando is set up to diversify that risk with an income pooling system, to where you share that risk up front and make the decision, how do we value the $10 million that gets us from 140 to 150 million in earnings versus the first $1 million. And, you know, with just the utility of money, that first $1 million is way more important than the $1 million that gets you from 99 to 100. And that's what we're players to make that trade-off with each other. That if you end up being one of those guys, you outperform everyone in your pool, you might get pulled back a little bit. Maybe you make 95 instead of 100 million. But are you okay with that being the trade-off in order to vastly increase your chance of making that first $1 million? And, you know, we've had great responses from players. We've been signing guys up literally every day and growing as a company. And we're starting to get a lot of traction within baseball and see players that this is a product for you guys. You guys make the deal essentially amongst each other. You decide who you pool with. And do you see big leaguers in your pool? You're a potential big leaguer, and that's why the other players want to pool with you, because you can make it. But at the end of the day, you know, it's just a numbers game. Like I said, everyone's not going to make it and have that long big league career. And there's 1,000 variables of what players do or don't make it, you know, be it injuries, changing in markets. You know, maybe you're a base stealer today, you know, that's not valued as much as it was 15 years ago. You know, power is very valued right now, but there could be shifts in that in the future. Age for sure. You know, you could be in an organization where, say you're a first baseman, you have a clear path to the big leagues, it's a weak system. You know, sky's the limit, you're going to be in the big leagues quickly, and then you get traded to another team where they have a first baseman, but you're now stocked in their minor league system. And so there's all kinds of things outside of a player's control that at the end of the day is going to determine the economics of your career. And so we can quiet some of that volatility by the players diversifying, investing in each other without any cash up front.
That's so important because, as you say, well, it's really amazing how being talented is just not enough. You know, there has to be like a huge amount of things aligned together with opportunity, being in the right organization. It's crazy because baseball, sometimes you get your break because somebody else got hurt, or things like that, you know? So taking that approach, and you said you've been signing up a lot of guys. So who do you see are them like most excited about this usually? Like older guys who actually get it, or you guys getting more attention for the younger guys that maybe are not as well educated, like, you know, financially,
Hmm.
and need support for that?
Yeah, it's kind of across the whole spectrum. In some cases, if we're talking to a player that just got drafted, sometimes this doesn't necessarily resonate with them right away because they haven't failed before. You know, maybe they were drafted out of high school where they just absolutely dominated the competition, or they were good in college, but professional baseball is a big step up from that. And so sometimes when players hear about this, it's downside protection in your career, and they can't fathom that there's a downside because they just got drafted and they're on their way. Um, and conversely, you know, there's players sometimes that have been in the minor leagues for a couple of years and they see what it's all about. Uh, you know, everyone's talented. Most everyone works hard, and you know, you're not going to be able to just purely outwork people to the big leagues. Just say I'm going to put my head down, I'm going to work, you know, work my tail off, and this is going to work out for me because it always has. Um, you know, it's just a whole different ballgame in professional sports. It's now a business, and there's a lot of things that kind of to go back to what you said. If anytime anyone gets called up to the big leagues, that means someone's leaving, and
Yeah.
until I think that's another thing that the general public and sometimes even players don't quite grasp is how tenuous a big league career can be. You might have, you know, if you're, I grew up a Cardinals fan, and did I lose you?
Okay, it was paused for a little bit, but it's back on now.
Okay. Yeah, but I was just saying that just because a player's been in the big leagues for 2 years, it looks like he's an established big leaguer, but he hasn't
Yeah.
reached arbitration. He hasn't signed a long-term contract. You know, he's potentially a bad month or an untimely injury away from being back in the minors and scrapping again. You can kind of lose that momentum on the ascent. Like, for instance, I was a AAA All-Star in 2014, and things were going really well. I had a sports hernia surgery that year that ended my season, and the next year I got released 2 months into the season. Um, and it was just bad timing. You know, I had a tough injury. There's never a good time to get hurt. Um, but I felt like all that momentum that I'd built, ascending through the system, having success in Winterball, just kind of got, you know, I got knocked down a few pegs. And the time I was getting back to full strength, I got released and, you know, ended up signing with other teams and continuing my career. But, uh, you know, it's just tough. It's a game that there's peaks and valleys, and everyone, you know, everyone says avoid the peaks and valleys and stay even keel. And that's what Pando accomplishes for finances. It kind of takes those peaks and valleys away for players. Um, you know, again, maybe you don't make 100 million, maybe you make 97 because you were in a pool. So that's lowering the peak a tad, but it's also raising that valley up significantly to where, you know, the odds of making no money in baseball go down significantly.
It's just like the same for here what you say. It's usually funny because I think the only sports that has so many layers, you know, levels, it's baseball.
Hmm.
Because as an NBA, you can get like draft and go to the NBAs, like
Hmm.
shortly after, you know. And I think the only sport that they call like the day-to-day grind, it's baseball. I mean, nobody's like grinding it out
Yeah.
in other sports like they do on baseball. But it's really interesting the way you put the fundraiser for your players, but originally it wasn't for players. So what was who like started that? Like, let's turn this into a baseball thing. Because is it
Yeah.
just baseball now, or it's just
We
you have like two parts of it? Like
we have
you have fun
baseball,
the sports.
and then we also have launched into the business world to where we have a similar product for entrepreneurs, startup companies, MBA grads, people that are, like I said, trying to take risks and try to ascend to a high level in their life. But starting a company is tremendous upside, but it's also tremendous risk and a high fail rate, similar to baseball. Most players that play professionally don't play 3+ years in the big leagues, let alone just a day in the big leagues. And it's very similar with starting a company or starting your own business. It can be very lucrative, but it's a lot of hard work and a high fail rate. And so we have a similar product of how the baseball world works for entrepreneurs, startups, and things like that, to be able to form a little community of people that believe in each other, and they can acknowledge that we're probably not all going to accomplish what we're setting out to do, but let's share this risk and make sure that when some of us do inevitably succeed, we're all able to share in those rewards because we're willing to do this together.
That's amazing. That's an amazing thing to just getting this all together. Once again, I have to say, I say earlier, it's like a group of guys like watching each other's back, right?
Mm-hmm.
So as you said at the beginning, that's how we met. We met here in the Dominican Republic. So you guys do that. You guys go out to Winterball, go out to minor league games, and just kind of just talk to the guys about it. How's like the scouting process for you guys?
Yeah, it's kind of all over the map. We do, we went down to the Dominican this winter for the first time. And it was really successful. We had a lot of good meetings with players. We've gotten players into pools from that trip. I live here in Arizona, where there's players here pretty much year round. So I'm able to meet with guys. We do a lot of business just over the phone, FaceTime, Zoom meetings, things like that, especially right now with what's going on. Excuse me. We also go to the amateur circuit, like we were out in the Cape Cod League last summer, to talk to the amateur guys, just educating them on our product and what we have to offer. But a lot of this is networking, because if a player decides he wants to do a pool, he might recruit some of his buddies to join it with him. And, the guys that they work out together in the off seasons maybe, or they went to college together, or they play in the same organization, and they see big leaguers. They're looking and say, everyone in this pool is a potential big leaguer. And so let's protect each other. So it's a lot of it is a network, and we are a financial product, but there's a strong social bond also with being in a pool with other guys, to where a lot of the pools have group chats amongst themselves where they'll just encourage each other and check in and see how everyone's doing. Maybe some of them have gotten together and worked out in the off seasons. They'll get a dinner together in spring training when they can. And a lot of this is a community. You're joining a little community where everyone's pulling for each other in a sport that's very individualized. Baseball is a team sport, but in a lot of ways it's an individual sport masquerading as a team sport. It's hitter versus pitcher, pitcher versus hitter, and all those things. And even when I was playing, when my buddies would get called up and my friends would sign big deals in the big leagues, I was thrilled for them, very happy for them. But
you were waiting for your turn, right?
Yeah, I was waiting for my turn. And so there is kind of that two sides of the coin. I'm super stoked that my buddy just got called up, but I wish that was me. I'm working hard, I have good numbers and all those things. And we like to say, if you're in a pool and one of those guys gets called up, a little bit of you got called up as well.
And it's also trickles down when somebody gets hurt, and you're just so sad because you get hurt, but that gives you a chance to go up, or somebody that a chance to go up.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a way in which baseball can be really cruel.
Yeah. And that's kind of an aspect of it, that the more I've gotten into the business, the more players that I've been able to interact with on our platform, you really do start seeing how this is much more than a financial product to these guys.
Yeah.
It's one of the things that I like to say is, if you don't make it, if you don't end up having a career in the big leagues, and you're going to be broke and bitter after this game, and with Pando you can just be bitter.
That's a really good advertising. But that's really interesting that you mentioned that, because you retired from baseball, but you're not completely out. So are you able to watch baseball? Because I know a couple of guys that just retire and they'll be like, I'm not able to watch a baseball game yet. I haven't been able to just watch baseball, or be like go to a baseball because I just don't feel like it yet?
It took some time, and working for Pando has kind of reignited my love for the game. You know, you get kind of jaded playing, and even now I'll watch the big league games and a guy that I played
Right.
against and be like, I was better than him. Like, and obviously I'm biased. I thought I was better than everybody, but so it was tough, and it was even tough in the minor leagues. You know, you look around and there's no doubt in my mind that I could get outs in the big leagues as a pitcher. You know, I'm not saying I would have been a perennial all-star or anything like that, but there's no doubt in my mind that if I would have gotten an opportunity in the big leagues, I could have stuck. You know, and in my situation, if I got called up to the big leagues, if I had a bad first outing, that could be the end of it. But who knows? Maybe you have a good first outing and then a good second outing and third, and before you know it, you know, off you go. But it's just a razor thin margin of error and it's just so much timing. There were times when guys got called up from my AAA team when I felt like I was potentially next in line, but I'd pitched 2 days in a row when they needed an arm in the big league, so I wasn't available. They needed someone to come up, and so it can be just that could have been my window. I don't know, but there's just those. It's just so random at times. You know, there's obviously talent, work ethic, results all go into it, but there's so much luck. And outside of their top prospects that they have a plan for, they're going to call them up at such and such time, and they're just kind of biding their time and waiting for service time requirements so they can control them longer. But, you know, for a lot of players, it's just timing, like right place, right time. You know, you have a great month of May, but they don't have a need for you in May. And then you're kind of slumping in June, and that's when a couple guys go down and someone's slumping and they need someone, but that's not when you're hot. And so it's just it's a beautiful game, but it's just really weird.
And it's evolving. I feel like baseball keeps evolving. For some reason, it keeps getting like younger. Like you could see like guys like, let's say he has been in big leagues for 3 years and he's just 24, 25. You know, it's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's the next question. Like, I know you said that you were better than many people you thought. Do you ever like strike out anybody since you were a pitcher that it's in the big leagues now? And you like when you him being like awesome, you'd be like, yeah, but I struck you out back in AAA.
Well, I have a story I like to tell that is allows me to brag but also humble myself at the same time. So
Perfect. This is what Happy Hours was designed for.
So only caffeine in here, so it's not going to get too crazy.
This is all I need. This is my fuel.
So I had to start my first full season in High A. I was in Visalia in the Diamondbacks organization, and we were playing in San Jose, which is the Giants High A, and Pablo Sandoval was making a rehab assignment there. And
Panda.
it was pandemonium in San Jose. So my start, I gave up 10 earned runs in 2 innings. Like one of the worst starts of my life. I only got 6
Wow.
I only got 6 outs the whole night. 2 of them were Pablo Sandoval. So a third of my outs were a big leaguer, but I couldn't get any of the minor leaguers out. So
there you go. It was very humbling.
Yeah. So it was very mixed emotions after the game. I was like, man, I suck, but I also can get big leaguers out. So it was, you know.
That's really interesting. First, it was High A, so
Yeah.
you probably were like just drafted.
Yeah, high is the Cal League's a hitters league. You know, you're expected to put up a high ERA there. But I remember the first player that I faced that, because I went to a D3 school. I wasn't facing elite competition in college. I went to a small high school. You know, I wasn't rubbing shoulders with the top prospects in the amateur side. And that year in High A, Nolan Arenado was the third baseman and where was it?
For the rookies, yeah.
Yeah. Modesto. The Modesto Nuts. And I didn't know who Nolan Arenado was at the time. He was just the third baseman on that team. And that series, I don't think I even pitched the first series, just watching him just in infield, like between innings, fielding ground balls and watching his at bats. I was like, this guy's different. You know, this isn't like the majority of infielders I've seen, the hitters I've seen. Like everyone's good, but it's like this guy's different. He's gonna be a superstar, and sure enough,
Yeah, and he got drafted out of high school, so
yeah,
he was probably one of those guys that
yeah, just absolute freak. His bat speed, but defensively, it was just so smooth. And
yeah.
Cannon made hard plays look easy, made easy plays look like he wasn't even trying. And
So you're telling me that no one was as good as he was? Like, he's amazing now, but was he like so good back then too?
yeah, I mean, and especially in high, he was. I mean, he was just a man of
Wow.
boys in terms of what he was able to do on the field. Um, but they were just going through the system. It's cool to have the experiences that I had, just playing with guys that are really good big leaguers and guys that you watch on TV, and it's just kind of cool. Like I was roommates with some of those guys and went through the grind with them, and some of them, there were some guys that I played with, and I knew I was entrenched in Double A, and they were making a small stop in Double A on their way to the big leagues, and it was apparent at the time, like they're really good.
Yeah.
But it's just, I think those are some of my coolest memories, and not because they're superstars, but because they're just good dudes. And I don't see, Trevor Bauer for example, he made his professional debut in High A that year when he got drafted, and he's just a dude, like he's really good at baseball. There were Patrick Corbin, Tyler Skaggs, rest in peace. Some of those dudes that were just like they're on their way. They're freaks. They're really good, but they're also people, and they're guys that you hang out with, and a small amount of your time is spent playing baseball and professional ball. Most of it's spent traveling and in the hotels, in the clubhouse, shagging BP, and all those things where you really get to know each other. And it's kind of cliche, but that's what I miss most about playing is not pitching, but it's just hanging out with the guys and being a part of that community and understanding that you're all trying to accomplish the same thing. You're on the same team right now. You're trying to win games, but there's individual goals and everyone's on a different track. But just those personal relationships are things that I'll cherish for a long time.
At some point, like, it makes you cherish the memories, but it makes it really hard for you to like decide to do things like retiring, or just coming to I'm not gonna play anymore, or
Mm-hmm.
just how hard. So that's the part when you become bitter.
Yeah, I'd had my first daughter my last season playing an affiliated ball, and I played in Venezuela that off season for 2 months, and my love for the game was kind of gone. Like my priorities had shifted. I didn't, I was 30 years old. I hadn't been in the big leagues, and I was healthy. I felt like I still could get to the big leagues, but I understood that your ceiling goes away. Maybe I get to the big leagues at 32 and get a cup of coffee or something, which would be awesome, and I could check a box in my life and in my career. But my family was more important, and I didn't want to have my wife be a single mom basically for 9 months out of the year while I'm traveling, and we didn't have the means for my family to travel with me all the time. And so I felt like it was kind of good timing for me because I had always really dreaded retiring, and I always thought that I would just play until they ripped the jersey off my back. If I had to go play in the summer in Mexico, like I'm down, like you can make some decent money. And like I said, I like playing. I like the lifestyle. I like hanging out with the guys. So when I did have my daughter and my priorities shifted, I felt like it was good timing for me to kind of move on and not be chasing ghosts for 3 or 4 years as my career winds up. And at some point you got to move on. It's a temporary career for everybody. Even if you're a Hall of Famer, like it's only a short amount of time you're able to do it. And so I was excited to move on into the next phase of my life. And then coming on with Pando was a perfect fit because it does keep me connected to the game. I was able to leverage my network and all the relationships that I've built within the game, just having the industry knowledge. If I was doing this in hockey, I kind of like hockey, but I'm not a hockey player. I wouldn't be able to communicate with players on that same level.
Yeah.
So it was a cool thing. I had to learn a new business, but I didn't have to learn a new industry, which was really cool.
Yeah. And at the same point, like you can tell them, like, at some point I was you in high A, double A, and I thought this and the internet was a bit like that. So like I'm here for you not to make that mistake. So it's really, I would so much more rather have somebody that has been there, has been through it to tell me, things that anybody, like somebody that has no idea whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
And in that saying, like, does Pando has like any players that are like up speaking about it, like going out doing like the advertising, like, yeah, I joined you guys, or
Yeah, we do have some players that are publicly Pando clients, but for the most part, our client list is confidential for the players, respect for what they're doing.
Yeah.
But so that's something that like we leave open to the players if they want to let it be known that they're a Pando client and advocate for us, because that's a lot of players that are a part of Pando, they see that this is a way to get financial security by working with your peers. And there's value in exposing other people to this and letting them see their options. And, just because you think your teammate should hear about Pando, that doesn't mean that he's going to be a fit for your pool. Maybe he's a much higher prospect or lesser of a prospect, and they may not be a fit for you, but there's a group for everybody. And that's something also that I take a lot of pride in is, that this is a great product for a first round pick or a top 10 prospect in baseball to be able to get in a pool with other top 10 prospects, other first rounders, where there's going to be a high success rate, but it's not going to be 100% most of the time. Maybe 4 of the 5 go on to have that top prospect career. And for the one that doesn't, he's protected by other elite talent. But we also work with guys that are undrafted that sign or they're late round draft picks, and they can pool together and increase their collective odds of making meaningful money. And another part of this that is important to me, kind of like what you were saying, you're at a different point in your life as your career moves on, your priorities change, your responsibilities change, and the payouts from these pools, they happen once players reach arbitration. So first 3 years you're in the big leagues, you keep all that money. You don't put anything into your pool. But once you start signing arbitration deals, free agent, you're making above and beyond the minimum, you already have money in the bank, that's when you start contributing. And so these distributions from these pools, they're going to happen maybe 25 to 35. And that's a time where everyone in that pool is starting to have a little bit more clarity on what baseball is going to be for them. Is this going to be the I never have to work again career? Or, am I going to have to grind it out and try to make what I can out of it? And if you're on the receiving end of that, maybe you are married, have kids, and those types of things. And that's when you're going to start getting those distributions from the pool, when I think players are more apt to treat that money with a little bit more respect and understanding that, this is important money that can affect my life. It's not, when you're 19, 20 years old, you're going to make it. And if you have money, some guys aren't the most responsible with it because they're operating under the assumption that they're going to make millions more as they get older.
Yeah.
So I think that's another part of our business that's trying to encourage financial literacy with these guys and help them to understand that, yeah, you can make it. You can have a huge career, but maybe you won't. And this is the way to protect against that and do it with keeping that money within the ecosystem. And if you end up outperforming your pool, maybe you lose some money in this system, that's going to lift up other guys that were willing to do the same thing for you. And, that's the cool thing about this.
Yeah. I think it's a great idea. And I think a lot of people should listen to this and do it. Because baseball is financially such a gamble. honestly. I think it's a career that's really like anything has a like anything you do in life is gonna have like a risk, but
Mhm.
anything that you can just lose in a second, I think is a little riskier.
Mhm.
So, which is the case for athletes. It's amazing what you can like do. At some point, you can reach so many like levels of being amazing and just winning a lot of money, and then at some
Mhm.
point also you can get released after a really good season. So it's it's crazy.
It's also
I really
it's
thank you for like. You want to say something?
yeah. I was just gonna say that this is a chance for players to make a smart business decision because any company, any business, individuals, you avoid consolidated risk. Businesses have insurances and leverages and different ways that they're protecting themselves in the case of some unforeseen circumstance that
Mm-hmm.
is inevitable in one way or another. So you plan for that. And we're allowing players now to make a savvy business move and get rid of that consolidated risk, diversify a little bit, and you're only diversifying money that's designed to not negatively impact your life if you end up contributing to the pool. Like I said, the difference between 20 and 21 million is far and away different than the difference in 1 and 2 million or 0 and 1 million. And that's the trade-off we're talking about.
Well, and thank you for like joining me and taking the time to explain this amazing chance, and of course giving some stories for the happy hour. This
Absolutely.
is
Let's
gonna
do
be
it some.
up on my YouTube channel as well, so yeah, you can share it. And thank you
You got
for
it.
coming on.